World Series with the Atlanta Braves. So let's welcome in CBS Major League Baseball insider Jim Bowden. And Jim, spring training camps should be in full swing around the Bigs with the season scheduled to get underway in just over 5 weeks. But we are inching closer to that deadline to begin postponing games. Where are we in talks to end this lockout?
Jim, very little progress, as you mentioned. I mean, the owners today agreed to increase the minimum by about $10,000 from their last offer. That's not going to move the needle. The two sides are a couple $100,000 apart on that issue alone. But I think the biggest news from today was the owners making that announcement that if there is no deal by the 28th of February, they will not make up any games that are missed, and the players will not be paid for the games that are missed. So if the deal is done on March 1st or March 8th or March 9th, those games that are missed, and they want 4 weeks of spring training before they open the season, and the players will not get paid for those days. Jim, I was surprised at this tactic. It did not go over well with the players. It was more of a threat. And I think it would have been more helpful if the clubs had made a more significant offer instead of just a small incremental movement. If they had made a huge offer and said, look, we want to get this deal done by Monday, and if we don't get it by Monday, then we're going to have to start canceling regular season games, that would have been a better play for me. But instead, they made a very, very small movement, and that's all we've seen all week, by the way. Very small movement and then a threat. And that kind of thing doesn't work well, not in 2022.
Yeah, it's been adversarial, if you will, on both sides. One side ultimately has to blink, Jim. Which side do you suppose needs to bend a little bit more to ultimately find some common ground towards an agreement?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think either side. I mean, right now they're all reacting to each other, right? I mean, yesterday the players went backwards for the third time in their negotiations. It irritated the owners, and I think it led to the owners making a small proposal today, and then the threat. I mean, quite frankly. So the gaps are so big in terms of the CBT tax, the threshold, the penalties. They're so far apart on the minimums, how to handle the 0 to 3 non-arbitration eligible players. And because there is such distance now, and everybody's moving so little, look, one side has to be bigger than the other. And it doesn't matter if it's the clubs or the players. Someone's got to make a dramatic jump in the proposal to get serious negotiations going so we can get a deal done by Monday. And that's what both sides have to do when they go to bed tonight, in my opinion, is look at it and be the bigger person, be the bigger side of this negotiation.
For the betterment of the game, to get the game on the field and not in these negotiating rooms. You just dictated those numbers in terms of how wide apart we are. Will we somehow, some way, have a requisite season that's close to a full season of games?
Look, eventually they're going to get a deal done, but I think there's a couple of dynamics that we have to look at, Jim, here, which is the revenues have changed so much since the last two CBAs, and the offers by the club do not reflect that. They're kind of minimal offers, and they're not consistent with the growth of the game and growth of revenue. They're going to have to make a more significant offer across the table that addresses the increase in revenues in the industry and also takes into account the future revenue that the game is going to get from national TV, streaming, and the betting industry. So I think once that's factored in, look, we have a chance to do a deal quickly. Yeah. You know, as much as I can say you're a couple $100 million apart, I can also say that it's probably 7 or 8 million per team apart, which doesn't sound as far apart. So look, there is room for both sides to negotiate a deal here by Monday, but the attitude has to change and the amount of movement has to change. Look, the last time we didn't start on time was 1995. I was GM of the Reds back then. We played 144 games, and everything was fine. So it doesn't matter if you play the full 162, but I think the way the game is today, I don't think turning off the fans is the right thing to do. Getting a deal done does. And for the owners, this is tough because they won the last two CBAs, right? There wasn't a lot of movement. They controlled the narrative. Well, now the players are fighting back, and they want to get a share of the revenue that the owners have gotten. So, look, we need movement on both sides right now, Jim. The good news is they're going to be back at the table tomorrow. And we'll see if someone moves significantly tomorrow, or if they're going to react on what the owners did today, which would not be a good sign.
Yeah, again, March 31st when the first games are scheduled in the bigs. Again, February 28th, the deadline to find an agreement to end the lockout before games are ultimately canceled. He's CBS Major League Baseball insider Jim Bowden. Jim, thanks for the insight.
Thanks, Jim.
And as we mentioned at the top, there are some names still out there that are big-ticket, unsigned free agents. Ultimately, once a deal is struck, there will be a slew of signings, some of the huge numbers. And here are some of those players. We mentioned a few at the outset. You see Correa, Freeman, Chris Bryant, another, Clayton Kershaw unsigned, a pair of Dodgers there, and Kyle Schwarber as well.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.